Ano ai ke aloha ya kākou. Thank you for joining us today here at the Office of Recovery on Maui. In a moment, Governor Josh Green, along with federal, state, county, and community partners, will share messages of hope and resilience as they update the progress of recovery efforts at this one-year mark after the devastating August 2023 Maui wildfires. We will facilitate questions from the media promptly after remarks conclude. Without further ado, it is my privilege to welcome Governor Josh Green, who will be giving an overarching overview of our collective progress to date.
Aloha. What an extraordinary year. A year ago yesterday, devastating wildfires swept through West Maui and other parts of this county and Big Island, burned the town of Lahaina down, took 102 of our loved ones and probably 2 additional who we haven't found, left thousands more homeless. We've spent the last several days talking about this, and yesterday was a day of reflection where we had our hearts broken again as we spent time with the families. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what has happened over the last year and what's going to happen in the coming year as we recover, as we heal. This was unprecedented for us. The year was filled with immense challenges, as you know, but people were so resilient. And that's what we've seen over the last 24 hours, especially as we've been with all of the families who had so much loss and in the community. And Mayor, you brought people together so extraordinarily. Thank you. Thank you from our hearts, the way you've done that for people. So I'm here to, of course, honor the memory of those we lost on August 8th, but I want to talk about how this recovery is going to come together and how houses will be built and how we will get additional services for people. So 12,000 people plus were displaced, over 3,000 properties were destroyed. The estimated cost of the overall recovery will ultimately exceed $12 billion, and we will unpack that for people. It is not about money, it is about healing, and that's what we have to do as a team, and this has all been a team effort. Thank you. More devastating than that material loss was the loss of our fathers and mothers and grandparents and in some cases children. That was the hardest thing for all of us to see, I think. And Jamie and I spent time thinking about that with all of you yesterday as we walked and saw the pictures of loved ones. So what do? We do everything now possible to help those families and all the families recover. I want to recognize and thank all the firefighters in this moment and the first responders who went into harm's way. So many more people could have been lost if they didn't do what they did. So firefighters and police, just extraordinary, and all of the team that went into the field. So you were heroic, and so we owe you this recovery. So the response was immediate from every corner of Hawaii. Organizations and communities stood up immediately, and new leaders rose. I want to single out Archie Kalepa, who essentially created a response team with the mayor in the first hours. Lives were saved as we tried to fly into the island. We should never, ever forget what civilians did to keep us alive, to bring supplies by boat and plane and helicopter. Just amazing stories. Organizations and state agencies then stood up. HIEMA, Department of Education, Health, Human Services, started working with Maui County. In the moment, FEMA and Bob Fenton has to be mentioned as one of our heroes. Twice if we're going to account for size. And his partner, sorry, there has to be some levity. It's just unbelievable what has gone on. And his leader, our administrators here again, Administrator Criswell, amazing. So meals were purchased and a school was built. We're going to have our experts dive into the details. So disaster relief began immediately, but of course it was never enough. There's been mental health care needs that exceeded capacity, medical needs that overwhelmed facilities in both the hours and the days and weeks after. But everyone came together, American Red Cross, FEMA, mayor's team, thousands of volunteers actually. So first thing that happened was we placed 7,797 individuals into hotels. No one's ever done that before. It happened in 13 days across 40 hotels, and 1.1 million meals were served. I want to recall that because the world was watching, and we just don't have a lot of houses available. And then we didn't have another county to go to. You couldn't just send 3,000 people to Lanai. Can you imagine trying that? So we had to do things that were never done before, and so for that I'm going to be forever grateful to our hotel partners and just to the team that was creative and willing to do that. And people understood, those people who understand Hawaii and have been here as visitors, as friends and family. Concerned citizens and organizations like CNHA and the Hawaii Community Foundation. Unbelievable how they expanded and mobilized to be able to absorb the sense of aloha that was coming from the mainland, where hundreds of millions of dollars poured in, but they had to manage that in a way that was responsible and to bring resources so that we could start building houses, so that we could do grants for people. They ran a parallel government entity essentially to what we were doing, and it was amazing. It kept people alive, and instead of 10 to 15% of the people that ended up leaving and hopefully will come back, it could have been 3 times that had they not been great partners and family. So thank you for that. So the recovery began that way. We also reached over to the legislature, and they agreed to do large grants, a large amount of grant on short notice, $12.5 million for small businesses. It's always difficult to help businesses in this circumstance until time has passed. It's a little bit easier to figure out which individuals are suffering, but businesses were destroyed. So we did over 1,000 emergency grants of up to $20,000 each with the blessing of the Senate and House. So again, I'm very grateful to them, and we'll need their help as we finalize the terms of the larger settlement. We'll come to that. This year's legislative session also brought $583 million in appropriations for the efforts on Maui. These funds are part of the federal state cost share for the debris removal. You'll hear a little bit more about the debris removal, but it was over $1 billion project, so you can understand very clearly that the federal government paid most of that. We paid a very small part, and the mayor and I made a conscious decision right off the bat to use the Army Corps of Engineers. We sat in a meeting and we decided to make a decision on the spot that they would get going, because we made a commitment also to the president and their team that within a year we would get most of the debris clearance done so we could move forward. Decisions like that were what we really did behind the scenes, and those are the stories that will be further told over time. But that $583 million, of which we've spent now to date $487 million on the state side, has gone to house people, to do our share, to help us build Kala'iola, which you're going to see today later as houses go in, and to support all the temporary housing projects in partnership with MICA and Kuhio and this alliance that we put together. I would also mention here, and I hope the mayor will go into details over time, he is a very humble person. He does not often take credit for certain things that should be very well understood. The county's already spent about $400 million on infrastructure. So they don't complain, they don't say that they can't do things, but they have been doing yeoman's work behind the scenes to make sure people can survive. And infrastructure may not be sexy, but I'll tell you it's important if you want to have water and then a house and so many other things. So mahalo, Mayor. So this investment that we've put together, which is now clearly approaching $1 billion between state and county, is our commitment just out of the gate for the people of Lahaina. So let's talk about the clearing of the debris and the lots. There were 1,500 residential lots, almost exactly, and the destruction was catastrophic. It did look like a nuclear weapon had been detonated on our land here. And the debris that had to be cleared, of course, had to happen both safely and environmentally soundly, because you can't have toxins when people come and begin to put their houses back on lots that have to be considered so they can restore their lives. Incredibly, 99% of the residential lots have already been cleared. So within the year time frame, virtually all of that land has been cleared, the debris has been cleared safely, so that now in year 2, which began today, you will be able to see the mayor take action to give permits out. You could not do it when that hadn't been done, the debris clearance hadn't been done. So we made it a point to live up to that standard, and we're also now rapidly clearing the lots for commercial activity, because we hear from people all the time, what will it look like? What will Front Street look like? Well, those decisions will be made between the mayor and the council and leaders here in the community, but it couldn't be done until that incredible work was done by the Army Corps. So mahalo to you guys, just amazing. Temporary housing for our survivors. Well, the past year, these investments have gone in, and you first had to clear grounds. You had to take care of the grading, and all of these processes had to be done under emergency rules. FEMA registered 17,000 survivors for services right off the bat, and we all needed to find housing, but the only housing we had in the first moments, if you didn't have a loved one or a family member that would also take you in, had to be the hotels. But how do you ask people to stay in hotels? Well, you only do that if you don't have other options, and so the other options began to become available. So hundreds of millions of dollars did go into keeping people in hotels so that they didn't become homeless. But also, we asked FEMA to be thoughtful with us, and that's how we began to contract through their many programs, longer-term rentals. And you know that that was very difficult, but people stepped up, like Kuhio, who found ways to ask individuals to share their homes for $500 a person to bring people into their house so they would have other options. The rental assistance programs, profoundly helpful. Building ADUs, helpful in every way. And then we came together for an interim housing plan, $500 million plan between the state and the county, CNHA, Hawaii Community Foundation, FEMA, and the Red Cross. And we moved everyone except for the most difficult to help individuals because they were struggling with other issues, so that everyone moved in one way or another to a longer term rental. And that took kindness from others to change out what was their very likely small business profit-bearing short-term rental and move it over to a long-term rental. It was not inexpensive, but it was much more appropriate than staying in a hotel for much longer. And so virtually everyone moved there, again over 99% by July 1st, leaving, as I checked right before coming over to Maui, 41 families that FEMA will be able to move to their temporary sites soon. That's 41 out of 3,071 families. Was a best count that we had. So 99% of those displaced moved into long-term housing, but that's not enough. So we need to move people now into transitional houses, which again, we're getting a great deal of support from the federal government to build. And what you will see now is transitional housing. 1,044 units have already been authorized or acquired. We acquired the Hagai building, for example, over across the island. That is 175 units. And the houses are now actually going up, and I'm going to break that down here in a moment. But the state's doing 450 units. The federal government, in addition to housing hundreds and hundreds of families, is also building housing, and we continue to grow together. You're going to hear from CNHA about the houses they've built, and we actually stood together and handed keys to a family, two grandparents and their grandchildren and one of their children into a house finally. So this will be the housing for year two as we get permanent housing to go forward also. Now, how do you get to permanent housing? Well, it's difficult to build in Maui because it's difficult to find water. And that's going to be a constant challenge for us. But our recovery plan is, I will say, complex but doable. And you're already seeing us to begin to construct what amount to 810 new permanent housing units. I'm going to just break this down for you very quickly. You'll see 200 units of affordable workforce housing here essentially in Lahaina. You'll see 90 affordable units over in Kihei, another 324 affordable units in Wailuku. These are already going, and then Makawao 196 units, plus the 1,044 transitional housing units. So that amounts essentially to 2,000 housing units that will come online over the course of the better part of this year. And that's even before we begin to share a heartfelt partnership with Kamehameha Schools, and we'll do that in the coming weeks and months because they, as a part of our settlement, have thoughtfully asked us to focus on the building of as many as 800 additional permanent houses right near the bypass road. But we have to unpack that for you in the coming weeks because we're really in the throes of the final negotiations to make sure everyone can help our people recover through that settlement. They've been extraordinary partners. We built a new school in addition to these thousands of units, and the new school, which will be described by our military colonel, it came up in 95 days, a new school, so that 350 students could stay and their families could be here, because it was the displacement from people and friends and relationships that was the hardest thing for people to endure. So the school, it cost $78.8 million. These are large numbers, but they were necessary when an entire part of your state is devastated. And that's, of course, more than just a building. It's a place where the families can find a grounding sense of self again. So we have to recognize the DOE folk who were so incredibly traumatized because they not only lost their houses, they lost their purpose. They weren't able to be with their students. So at this moment, I'm going to share with you that to honor them, we are going to be creating a program for this year in partnership with Mark and Lynn Benioff of basically aloha grants to those who worked at the Lahaina schools. And we'll give more details this coming week, but people will receive up to $5,000 if they worked at the schools as teachers or in support of those schools, because we know that they're buying backpacks and laptops and iPads and food for the children that were otherwise displaced. So everyone who's worked in those schools is going to receive a grant because of what they have done and what they will need to do this coming year. We're currently going to detail the final parts of that program, but I just want to say this. Thank you to everyone across the country, across our state, really across the planet, for giving so much. These dollars kept the community together. And then, of course, it was the heart and soul of the people that actually stayed. We built a new clinic. Kaiser, friends of ours who do much of the healthcare here on Maui, who run the hospital, decided that they would accelerate the building of a clinic. 5,000 square foot clinic usually takes 3 years to do that. They did it in like 2 to 3 months. And that clinic now takes care of people, whatever their needs are, whatever their insurance is, people are drifting in to find care. So a clinic to match the school. But it's not just about healthcare and education. It's next also about the land. The land is sacred to the people of Lahaina. So as you heard yesterday, we are returning Moku'ula, the sacred place, to the people of Lahaina. So as we rebuild these other structures, we rebuild history and culture. And that's why the mayor and I stood here yesterday quietly and signed a document of partnership so that we could go forward on the terms that the community comes up with. But there won't be any government impediments to restoring that water and those cultural sites and the sense that there has to be equity in Lahaina. So that's another major piece. And as Jamie and I discussed this morning, yes, it's a testament to those that we lost. So it is a way for us to remember the 104 people that perished in the fire forever. We will recognize them at that site, but it's also a way for us to recognize going forward things will be different, and they will be more pono for the community of Maui. People will come to Lahaina in the future and they will see water and land come together. They will see an ahu pua'a supported by Kamehameha Schools and Hawaii Community Foundation, state, county, and CNHA, so they can celebrate that Lahaina is what people felt it should be, because it was profoundly important. It is the place where King Kamehameha III kept his royal residence in the 19th century, and where Hawaiian royalty was able to demonstrate that it cared and could sustain life for people. So we're announcing that return, and that will be signature to everything that we do. The final things I'd like to mention are people, in addition to all of these projects, because the houses will be rebuilt, and much more quickly than anyone imagines. the clinics will continue to grow. The monies will come in. We have the settlement in place, a $4 billion settlement, much of which is covered by HECO. The state and county came together in agreement because we knew the county had to focus its resources in a going forward way. They will be able to take significant resources from HUD and rebuild all these things I've been discussing. So the state's helping a little bit more up front so that no one has to worry about bankruptcy or turning their backs on anybody when they never would otherwise. That's what this settlement is about. And when those resources come to the people of Lahaina, they will be able to rebuild their homes. But it's the people themselves that we will trust. And I'm going to mention one more time the woman who was 7 months pregnant when the fire occurred, but the road was closed. She couldn't go get her visit from her doctor, from her OBGYN. So Brooke, my chief of staff, who's been with me day and night, along with Makana and the whole team, Reese, Fele, she found a way to get that girl to her OBGYN visits. And she delivered a baby appropriately named Faith after a year of crying and crisis, of watching her Filipina family dispersed. It's those people that we have to build this community back for, to put the houses back into the ground, to use the settlement dollars to cover. So Baby Faith represents that new beginning for us. And today, because of the mayor's vision, we're together with the kupuna, who will tell the stories of the fire of 2023 to that child. The parents will come back from their travels if they were displaced, but the kupuna will be the ones that get that baby there. So it's been healing and hope for this year. The unimaginable challenges have passed. Now they are imaginable work that we have to do. So I hope that when we stand here again in a year and tell the story of the second year, we'll talk about how the settlement brought people to a place where they could build their houses again, how Moku'ula was filled with water, and that people began to see that the past takes us into the future. We've supported each other, we care for each other. The bonds we've built, especially the people that went through the fire, are absolutely unbreakable. The world watched and learned what aloha was. And if there is any blessing from this fire, it's that people all across the globe who waxed philosophic about how beautiful Hawaii is now know actually what Nohana is. They actually know what the spirit of aloha is, and you saw that as people canoed out into the water together. It was absolutely something that no one else does anywhere else in the world, and that's why Hawaii will recover. So I'm thanking all of you who have sacrificed. I apologize for the length of this conversation, but I think that people needed to know that we've come so far. Journey's not over, but the recovery and healing is fully in motion. We will rebuild Maui. It's stronger than it was before in many ways. Our keiki will be safe as they grow up here. So today we're honoring those we lost, and in summary, know that together we'll heal. We are already beginning to rebuild, and the future will be bright for Maui and all of its loved ones and all of Hawaii because of all the work that you did. Mahalo, thank you for sticking with us on this journey, and count on us to be here until the job's done. Aloha.
Mahalo, Governor Green. Up next, Maui County Mayor Richard Bisson.
Aloha, and mahalo everyone for joining us today. Yesterday we took some time to reflect on the lives lost so we could remember, along with their families, the enormous weight of the impact that they must have been going through yesterday. Our community came together as one ohana to find the comfort and peace as we hosted close to 5,000 of our people yesterday throughout our day's gatherings. As Governor mentioned, started with the paddle out, which was again very unique, and also up in Pukalani, where we gathered with our friends and family from Kula and upcountry, and ended last night with a very special event held at the Lahaina Civic Center. And I wanted to thank all our partners and our entire community who accepted our plan to take yesterday as a day of remembrance and to mention all the things Governor has talked about today. So I'm here to do the same. We look forward today with the hope, and we reflect on the many steps that we've already taken in our recovery, much of which has been covered by Gov. I'll just mention a few more. We are moving forward in our recovery, and we continue to make the progress. The debris removal, I will leave more specifically to Colonel Swenson, as that is his weekly, I would say, task with all of us who have been at our Wednesday meetings. So I won't take his thunder and get into any of the specifics there. Unless he doesn't mention it, then I'll jump back up and mention them for him. The infrastructure team that we have in the county has been exceptional, and Gov's touched on that as well. The county's departments of environmental management, water supply, and public works have been working diligently during these recovery efforts. Our drinking water was 100% restored a week ago. We also have our sewer infrastructure that will be restored by the end of this year. Last week, the county and the state also worked together to open Honoapi'ilani Highway so that we could alleviate a lot of the congestion that is caused, and some of you have been in this traffic, so you know what I'm talking about. We continue to work on roadway improvements and the repairs to make our roads safe in preparation, which includes sidewalks and rights-of-way. We've created an expedited permitting system with 4-leaf. We have already issued 50 building permits, including 2 in the SMA, I might add. 111 permits that are currently in the queue, and there are 16 houses that are currently being built, including 2 of them in Kula. The temporary housing that Gov touched on, I'll just add a couple more points. We're working again with FEMA, the state, CNHA, and GEM, as well as HCF, to help build the emergency housing. There are over 1,000 temporary units that are already in progress, and as Gov mentioned, families are already moving in. There's over 1,000 permanent housing units that are also in the process of being built. Approximately 900 of those are workforce housing. We also remain committed to keeping our community informed and prioritizing their vision for their community, which is why I formed the Lahaina Advisory Committee. We've held community meetings throughout Kula and Lahaina since last November to keep our community connected to resources and for updates in navigating our recovery. And I've learned from our federal partners that that is not a common occurrence in other communities when there are such disasters. We've held 8 meetings in Kula, 28 meetings in Lahaina, and 7 smaller talk story sessions. These meetings were also live streamed for our community members that have moved away and that could not participate in person. We continue to encourage our community to visit MauiRecovers.org for day-to-day community updates. There are real-time updates on that website, and it will inform you on recovery efforts as well as resources. Our community engagement continues as we work towards long-term recovery. We've had 5 neighborhood workshops with over 900 participants. We've engaged 3,038 residents, and we've conducted 3 community surveys that resulted in 2,743 respondents. We've also conducted 190 in-person interviews. Our plan is slated to be completed by the end of the year. We've also had our county arborist and working on our trees in the impact zone. Initially, we lost about 40% of the banyan tree. However, it continues to show progress in its new growth, and maybe some of you were able to go through the impact zone and see that. Our county arborists have been working to restore and care for other trees throughout the impact zone. We also continue to evaluate and strengthen our emergency response. Our fire department has added 29 new fire frontline positions, as well as increased equipment, and we're utilizing newer technology such as a thermal drone that we used in a recent fire up at Crater Road to help us detect underground hotspots, and again to be able to do things at night when our helicopters cannot be used. We've also installed portable N5 sensors to assist with detecting smoke and fires that can, or at least heat, and that relies on artificial intelligence, and also smart learning that allows it to distinguish anomalies between smoke or other particles or gases that are produced by fires. Our MEMA staff consists of a new administrator. Most of you have already met Amos Lono Kailua Hewitt, former battalion chief with our fire department. We've increased MEMA by 13 positions, including having a presence on Molokai, Lanai, as well as Hana. We also have been working more closely with a unified command during our responses, which allows for streamlined communications. Again, we utilized many of those techniques in the recent fires that we've had at Cradle Road in Pihana and yesterday even in Pukalani, or this week in Pukalani. We're noticing that increased community information has led to a more cohesive approach to emergency response between all of our major agencies, MEMA, Fire, and of course police and other emergency response. Our police continue to evaluate and improve their communications and their operations, again, to improve our communications with each of those agencies, and also to respond to larger law enforcement, large-scale law enforcement incidents. And in closing, I extend our sincere appreciation to the many partners that are here and those that are not sitting here, the many who have stepped up, as Governor mentioned, worldwide over the last year to care for our people, to care for our home. Thank you again for loving Maui. I also want to extend to our residents, especially, to remember to take care of yourselves, to reach out if you need help. Mental health resources are available, as I mentioned earlier, on MauiRecovers.org. And lastly, I send sincere love and gratitude to all the first responders, the many community heroes, and the volunteers that continue to fight for Lahaina, for upcountry Maui. We are with both of those communities as we continue and as they continue to recover. And as Gov mentioned, and Administrator Criswell also mentioned this morning in her remarks, for as long as we're needed. Mahalo, everyone.
Mahalo, Mayor Bisson. Up next, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell.
Aloha. I just wanted to start by thanking Governor Green and Mayor Bisson. You have just been incredible partners, and we can't do this alone. And the partnership that you have showed and the graciousness that you have accepted our teams in really has been remarkable. I know that for those listening, this past year has been difficult, but we have made progress, and I continue to look forward to working with both of you as we continue to help the communities recover. Yesterday was really special for me. I had an opportunity to join many of the events that the mayor and the governor put on, and in particular, the paddle out. I got to share that I was really overcome with a lot of emotion during that event. It was really powerful, and it really was, I think, a true testament to the community and how this community has come together and bonded and been able to support one another. And it's that kind of community-led initiatives, that community-led recovery that's really going to make the difference as the rebuilding now continues to begin. And I'll never forget all of the feelings that I had yesterday. I know that the mayor had to give me a hug at one point in time because it was just a really powerful event. And again, as I said earlier today, and I've said yesterday, that we will continue to be here every step of the way for this recovery. I also had a chance to talk with some of the first responders, some of the firefighters yesterday, and we did a moment of silence, 102 seconds of silence, and hearing their stories of what they were doing that day and how they continue to help their community on the road to recovery just reminds us how important our first responders are in the communities. And even during the initial response days, where we brought in first responders from around the country to help with the rescue efforts, to help with the recovery efforts, those first responders, I just always appreciate the level of professionalism and dedication that they provide. I want to just touch a little bit then on some of the efforts that we're doing in the recovery, and I'll start with the fact that FEMA is here to help lead this federal interagency in recovery, but we are just one small part of a very big federal team that's here supporting this. And it includes our nonprofit partners, and it started with the American Red Cross, and the American Red Cross that did so much to help get people out of the congregate shelters and into the hotels, and they set up a program that they had never done before to be able to house everybody in a hotel to give them some sense of normalcy in those early days. One of our greatest partners here, which you're going to hear from, is the Army Corps of Engineers, who has just been remarkable in this recovery. And you're going to hear more about, the work that they have done to set up the school, to do the debris removal so the rebuilding can begin, to help with the long-term housing site that we are putting in place. Our partners from the Environmental Protection Agency have also been here to help us with the cleanup, to provide that guidance and that technical assistance, both during the initial cleanup, but now as we continue to rebuild, providing continued assistance to us. The Small Business Administration, who not only helps our small businesses on their road to recovery, but also provides assistance to individuals, whether they're renters or their owners, to help them jumpstart their recovery process. And we also worked with the Department of Education, who really helped us with the details of establishing the temporary elementary school, which I was able to see and participate or visit for their first day of school on Wednesday, which was really special. All of these federal agencies, they come here for one reason, and that's to put people first. And putting people first is really at the heart of this recovery effort, and it will continue to be as we move into this next phase. So far, we have helped 7,000 families or 7,000 people across the island jumpstart their recovery through our various disaster assistance programs. Today, we have more than 1,200 households that are supported by our direct lease program. And we also have 64 families already identified that will be moving into our temporary housing program. We are setting up a permanent long-term recovery office. We have hired the director for that, who should be coming on board soon. And this office is going to be right here in the community, be staffed by members of your community to help with this recovery process. These are going to be people that you know and you trust and that understand your community, that will make sure that your needs are met because they know what those needs are. And so I just want to close, because we have a lot of speakers here yet to come, and just say to the people of Maui, we are here for you. We are not going to leave anytime soon. We will be with the mayor and with the governor and all of the residents that were impacted for as long as it takes to get them on their feet again. Thank you.
Mahalo, Administrator Criswell. Up next, Dr. Dmitry Kuznetsov, Undersecretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Science and Technology Directorate.
Good morning. Thank you for a brief indulgence on some of the things we're trying to do in partnership with Hawaii and Maui in particular in the technology realm. I do want to amplify a little bit what Mayor Bisson mentioned in terms of these technologies. All of this is done through partnerships with the governor, the mayor, Administrator Criswell, the U.S. Fire Administrator, key parts that are essential to doing anything. What we do in DHS at S&T, we are a research and development arm of the organization, and we help push technologies into practice, and it takes strong partnership across all our components. And we work hard also with state, local, tribal, and territorial first responders to try and understand needs and try and find where technologies can make life better, where we can enhance security, where we can enhance resilience, preparedness, appropriately through technology and the quality of life. 4 years ago, we started looking at fire sensors and tried to ask, what is it you can do beyond just looking to see if something is burning? And we scanned the market, we looked at the landscape and asked the question, what's in the realm of the possible? And where we ended up was trying to measure the air, trying to smell instead of just see. Seeing is still important, but what else could you pick up from the scent? Something we all experience when we kind of smell something, a barbecue or something. We see it, but we don't know where things are. We thought about a smart network of sensors, AI-based, that could be deployed as a network. where you're smelling the air, where you're measuring the wind, where you're sensitive to many different kinds of particles and ambient effects in the environment, and asking, is there something there that's anomalous that you should worry about? In 2023, we started our first phase. We deployed in 11 states. We measured about 1 million hours of data to try and say, what is it that we're trying to do? Is AI a smart path? And we ended up demonstrating that yes, we could do things more smartly. This year, we're in the next phase of that. We're in the beta phase, where we have prototypes, we have companies that are doing it. In the back here, we have a representative as well. And the key thing is, we have a brand new technology. It is the first of its kind. It is deployed in Hawaii as the first adopter of this next generation. 80 of them have been deployed across the Hawaiian Islands, 20 of them here in Maui. The deployment is based on the fire chiefs and where they believe the hot spots should be. On Maui, there are 16 of them in fixed locations, and 4 of them are remote that can be positioned wherever you want. And the data is coming in. We did already initial measurements of the background, and now it is in the mode where it's sensing things. It is actively deployed. It pushes notifications to the first responders. But again, Hawaii is in a place, and Maui in particular, is leading the way in this next generation of technologies, which we expect to be more broadly deployed across the nation and probably globally. And so again, we thank the state of Hawaii and the county of Maui for their leadership, and the fire chiefs for willingness to partner with us to take this next step, to look ahead. At S&T, we think broadly, not just about fires. We work with floods, with emergency operations centers, the next what-ifs of communications in thinking about resilience and preparedness. But it takes like-minded partners who are willing to do this, and Hawaii is leading the way, and we're really grateful for that. So thank you very much.
Mahalo, Dr. Kuznetsov. Up next, I'd like to introduce U.S. Fire Administrator, Dr. Lori Moore Merrill.
Thank you. Aloha. Yesterday and today are certainly of great significance here on Maui, throughout the Hawaiian Islands, but also across the United States and around the world. We reflect, of course, on the tragedy and remember the loss as we did yesterday, but we do so with great hope in our hearts. Hope that never again will this island or any community suffer so great a loss due to fire. I, along with the FEMA administrator and many others from the Biden-Harris administration, were here just hours after the fire, and like you, overwhelmed with what we witnessed, but not beaten, because we knew that there was work that had to be done. In those moments and what we saw, we were crushed, but not again without hope. What we witnessed and the days and the hours, and even now, is the character and the strength of Aloha. And I appreciate the mayor and the governor, because you too exhibit that in great proportion. We witness your cultural perseverance, and like today, it's inspiring. In the days and weeks and months that followed, many actions were taken, and we had multiple visits here. As the U.S. Fire Administrator, I focused on visiting with your firefighters in the fire stations and along with your chief to ensure the well-being of your firefighters. We listened, we connected with them, and we provided health screenings and mental health resources. In fact, today at 3 p.m., your Maui County Fire Department will be releasing a video on social media of your firefighters and their stories of the night of the fire. I viewed it today, and it is a powerful, powerful story that tells what they encountered and the many rescues that they perpetuated through the hours of the fire. After the fire, we brought in NIOSH, our National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, to evaluate the potential chemical exposures on your firefighters. And we had more than 287 responders, including 179 firefighters who participated in the evaluation, and we now have recommendations and training and are monitoring their health going forward. We collaborated with the EPA, that has been mentioned, Our collaboration was on the removal of lithium-ion batteries from the zone and the impact zone to reduce the additional fire risk from those batteries going into thermal runaway. And we were working with the EPA to enable the de-energization of those batteries so that we could move to debris removal in earnest. With our partners from DHS Science and Technology, you just heard that we facilitated the deployment of fire sensor technology to sense the smoke and to provide alerting to your firefighters so they can move more quickly toward the point of ignition. We're also working to build your fire response capacity here on the islands. On August 19th, in just 10 days, we will conduct a Train the Trainer course for 30 candidate instructors here to build and lead interagency all hazards incident mitigation teams here on Hawaii. That means that you're going to have new capacity through collaboration and joint emergency response capabilities. And in just 2 weeks ago, the fire administrator, our administration launched a new awareness tool for the nation that includes, of course, the Hawaiian Islands, so that you can see the vulnerabilities in your communities in case there is an ignition and before. We want you to have tools that you become aware of the fire-prone lands in which you live. We need people to know where they live and how embers can spread if a fire ignites in your area, all to help you prepare. So these tools are available at usfa.fema.gov, and we would love for you to make sure that you check those and understand more about your community. Just this week, we collaborated with the International Association of Firefighters to offer a training for your firefighters here called Responding to the Interface. This is to train your firefighters, many of them to become instructors, so that they can train the entire fire department on strategies and tactics of suburban and urban conflagration, structure-to-structure fire spread. And I want you to know that the U.S. Fire Administration and America's firefighters remain very focused on the ongoing potential for wildfire in many of our communities across the nation, and ongoing potential for wildfire here. We continue to stand with you in a three-part cohesive strategy. What does that mean? We need your help. One is resilient landscapes, including the reduction of rapidly burning vegetative fuels around your properties. Fire-adapted communities, where that we can understand that adopting building codes as you build back to better protect your structures, using fire-resistant materials, reducing the combustible attachments to your homes, like decks or fences, and understanding that you need some increased separation as best we can between structures to prevent that structure-to-structure spread from wildfire events. And finally, effective response. And we've talked a lot about your firefighters, but including rapid alerting when you have an ignition and dispatching your trained firefighters quickly, ensuring that they are equipped, as the mayor has spoken about, making sure that they have enough firefighters and enough equipment, proper equipment. And as we plan for an effective response, we want to make sure that we also plan for an effective evacuation. And so the U.S. Fire Administration has taken on a project on wildfire evacuation to ensure that we have consistency in our communities and how evacuations are conducted, and that we understand egress routes and how to properly find temporary refuge areas or areas of safety zones that may not be on the road out of a community. As Lahaina continues to rebuild and recover, we're going to remain also in close connection with your leadership here and work with the Hawaii Fire Departments across the islands to provide tools and technologies from data and to inform your decisions. We're grateful to be able to contribute to the resiliency of your community. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Administrator Moore Merrill. Next, please welcome U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Colonel Eric Swenson.
Aloha. And thank you all for being here today. Today we stand together not just to reflect on what was lost a year ago, but to honor the incredible resilience and spirit of this community. As the commander of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Hawaii Wildfire Recovery Field Office, I want to start by offering my deepest condolences to those who lost loved ones, homes, and cherished memories. I've walked through these neighborhoods, spoken to aunties and uncles, listened to your stories of lost survival and hope. These are the moments that stay with me. They fuel our commitment to do everything we can to support this community's recovery. In the immediate aftermath of the fires and at the request of the county and state, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers mobilized quickly. Within days, our team was on the ground, side by side with FEMA, state, and local agencies and community leaders. We came with a mission to provide temporary power, clear debris from Lahaina and Kula, and construct a temporary school and housing community for fire survivors. But more than that, we came with a commitment to stand with the people of Maui and to walk with them in this journey of recovery. Over the past year, we've seen significant progress. Together, we've cleared 99% of residential debris and 50% of commercial debris, making way for families and friends to begin rebuilding their homes, lives, livelihoods, and their town. And to just give a nod to the governor and the mayor, I will share some of the specific numbers. So over the past 6 months, we've talked to the community every Wednesday night, and we talk about Little C. That is cleared lots. That is lots that have been cleared of their primary debris, of the fire debris, the visible signs of the tragedy. And as of this morning, we had cleared 1,379 out of 1,399 properties. And for commercial, we had cleared 78 out of 159 properties. So we are at 99% residential and 50% commercial. We've cleared 3,100 vehicles and 141 vessels from the harbor and around the harbor. We've also built a temporary school to replace the King Kamehameha III elementary school that was lost to the fire. This new 30-classroom campus officially opened after 95 days of construction on April 1st, 2024. Just a side note, that was the first day of school for the fourth quarter of the academic year. We got those kids back into school. And following summer recess, just reopened on this past Wednesday to welcome students back for this academic year. And this school serves as a beacon of hope and normalcy for the community. For the parents with young children, it is a safe place for their keiki to return and grow while moms and dads continue the arduous task of rebuilding their ohana. I'm especially proud of how we've worked to ensure that the recovery effort benefits the local community economically. We've prioritized contracts with local and Native Hawaiian-owned small businesses, channeling millions of dollars into the local economy. This isn't just about rebuilding structures. It's about supporting the people of Maui in a way that strengthens the community for the future. Throughout this journey, I've had the privilege of connecting with so many of you, residents, business owners, and community leaders. You inspire me with your resilience and determination. Our conversations have reinforced something very important to me. Our work here is not just about the physical recovery. It's about helping this community heal and move forward. As we continue this journey together, I want you to know that the Army Corps of Engineers is here for Maui. We will keep listening, keep working, and keep supporting you until we work ourselves out of a job. Mahalo for your strength, your partnership, and your unwavering spirit. Together, we will rebuild, recover, and ensure that Maui emerges stronger than ever. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Colonel Swenson. Now please welcome Hawaii Community Foundation President and CEO Mike Akane.
Hello, everyone. Almost Paul. Mahalo for giving us the opportunity to have the mic this afternoon. Before I begin, I want to really acknowledge the mayor and the governor for their leadership. That's why we're all here today. They created a platform for all of us to work together, and just want to thank them for creating that opportunity. Mahalo. You know, I want to acknowledge the donors around the world for the support that they've showed for the people in place of Maui. Over 240,000 individuals representing 78 countries, every U.S. territory, every state in our union, over 5,000 corporate contributors, all stepping forward to express their aloha for the people in place of Maui. Just an amazing expression. I also want to mahalo our community partners. Over the past year, thanks to their work and their capacity, over 240 grants to over 190 different organizations, representing close to $110 million. Just amazing work. Everything from, you know, reimbursing a family from Molokai who was, you know, bringing in propane gas tanks, you know, for families in the first couple of days immediately following the fires, to major work being done by organizations like the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement, and you're going to hear from Kuhia a little later, or Catholic Charities, or Maui United Way, or Maui Economic Opportunities. You can just go on and on and on and on about the organizations that really stepped up, and even some newer organizations that we're building capacity on. You know, we're at a critical juncture in this recovery process. As I mentioned earlier, the mayor and the governor invited us early on to have a strategic position at the table, and it allowed us to have kind of this inside out, outside in perspective of the disaster. You know, early on, we adopted FEMA's four-phased approach, and clearly we are in what we consider phase 3, which is in this stabilization recovery period. But each of us, I'm sure, go home each night trying to think about, you know, how do we prevent the next disaster from happening? For us at HCF, so much of the complexity of this disaster was due to the fragility of Maui's housing crisis. Much of what was said by our previous speakers is inherently solved when you deal with that issue. Most of our conversation is around end of pipeline issues. We've got to get up the pipeline and deal with this housing issue once and for all. It is a solvable problem. I think we have the right people and leaders at the table to deal with it. Much like we came together to deal with the interim housing issue around the MOU, where we came together, and at the federal, state, county, philanthropic, and community level, we came together and we dealt with that issue. Everybody understood their role. Everybody executed. We had hard conversations around water, around where that was going to occur, and we're here today, you know, with great progress. Those same tactics need to take place if we're going to try to address the permanent housing issue. Colonel Swenson this morning during the Kupuna breakfast said that there's going to be an opportunity for Maui to really model change. And I'm paraphrasing for you, Colonel, but I think what you were leading to is, you know, take advantage of what unfortunate opportunities might be presented to you. Housing is that issue for us. If we don't take advantage of the urgency, the political will, community will to deal with this issue today, I'm not sure we'll ever be able to deal with it, at least in my lifetime. And I would encourage us to have those hard conversations. We're starting to have them already, whatever side you sit on around short-term rentals, whatever side you sit on water, you know, those conversations need to be had. And we need to stop pitting those issues against each other, because they can be complementary of each other. And HCF will be at the table to work with parties to assure that we can come to a compromise to model how Maui can lead for not just Hawaii, but for our world. And we look forward to being part of that. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Micah. And finally, I'd like to welcome Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement CEO Kuhio Lewis.
Hello, everyone. I want to start off by just, like everyone else, sending our aloha to the families and to the people of Maui. This past year has really been a test of our community resilience, not just for those on Maui, but even for those that are helping to aid the community. And I want to thank them for allowing us to be in their community, for allowing us to be at their side through their challenging times. I also want to thank the over 22,000 donors that have given to CNHA directly. Collectively, CNHA has brought in over $40 million in direct donations. And I want to thank some of the key partners that are here, and I want to start off with thanking Micah Kane. You know, early on, Micah recognized that it was important for Native Hawaiians to be at the table, being part of the solution, and so he recognized having a Hawaiian organization here supporting was critical. So I want to thank him for that early investment, for his encouragement. And it's kind of, it's ironic because in 2008, I was given a home in the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, and I got my keys from Micah Kane, who at the time was the chairman of DHHL. I didn't know that I'd ever come back to work with him, but today I get to hand out keys to other people. And you know, I'll share some of the results of that. Thank you, Micah. I also want to recognize our governor because I don't know of a harder working governor at this point. I know he goes to bed every night thinking about Maui, and I know he wakes up every morning thinking about Maui because I get texts sometimes and all hours of the night. And so he's very solution oriented. And I think a lot of the movement that you see is really because of his leadership, so thank you, Governor. Mayor, I've never seen someone that has such commitment to community. His heart is genuine, and he really does stand with the people of Maui. And our federal partners, our national partners, Red Cross and FEMA, not just financially supporting us, but just mentoring us as well. They've been a great part of our efforts. As everyone would recall, back in January, a bunch of partners, all of whom are here, signed the MOU, an agreement to do whatever we could to build homes for people of Maui and to put whatever effort and work was necessary to get to that point. I'm happy to share that since then, CNHA directly, and of course it's in collaboration with all of these partners, we're currently housing over 900 Lahaina residents in our various housing programs. That's over 450 families. And we're currently building 66 homes, 2-bedroom homes. And 13 of them are already complete. We've also trained quite a bit of CDL drivers, so as you drive in and out of Lahaina, you'll see CDL trucks going in and out. Many of them came from our programs that we stood up, the Kako Maui workforce programs. Many of those that are working in the burn zone, you need certain certifications to be in there. CNHA trained them, we certified them, we got them their HAZWOPER trainings. So we moved all of our capacity from other islands to Maui to help them be part of their own recovery process. I wanted to also share, in addition to the multitude of programs that we currently have, we're kind of like the executionists. We just get it, we move heaven and earth, knock down all the barriers and get it done. So we have a lot of programs that are supporting families right now. But the one that I wanted to share with today was a pre-development grant that we're announcing. This is supported by Maui County. It's through funds that we got from Maui County. The council had approved. Is to provide homeowners that lost their homes with pre-development grants. This is to help them kickstart them, whether it's for permitting, whether it's for hiring a consultant, an architect, whether it's to buy down interest points, whatever it takes, it's a grant. It's $15,000 per resident. You have to have been living in Lahaina and you have to have lost your home or it was deemed unlivable. So that's a new program that we're coming out with. CNHA also has a gap assistance funding program. So if you're renting, can't afford it, the subsidy that you might be getting from FEMA is not enough to cover rent, we'll cover the gap. It's a gap assistance program. If you're DHHL waitlister. DHHL has provided CNHA some resources as well to help specifically waitlisters that are having trouble securing securing housing. So those are some programs that are ongoing. Of course, our resource center is available. It continues to receive quite a bit of traffic. We're here to support you through all the multitude of applications that are out there. And we'll be announcing soon that we'll be likely partnering with the county to take over this space as being an extension of our Kako'o Maui site as well. So you have two locations, one at Maui Mall and the other here. In closing, I want to thank, because I think it's very important, thank the staff of CNHA, the accountants who process hundreds of checks to landlords every month, to the attorneys who are constantly drafting agreements to landlords, but most especially to the Maui staff. Many of them lost their homes themselves, and they come to work every day, and what drives them and what fuels them is being able to support their neighbors. They're really the fuel behind all of our fire. So I want to thank them, and I also want to just close out by extending our deepest aloha once again to the people of Maui. CNHA will continue to stand alongside all of you. Mahalo.
Mahalo Kuhio. We will now take questions from the media. I will repeat a summarized version of the question before inviting the speaker to respond via podium. And with that, we're going to start with our Maui-based or Maui-born reporters and media outlets, starting with Wendy.
We know that a lot of the information would have come out in trial regarding the cause and responsibility of the fire. In light of the settlement and anticipated redactions in that ETF report, what are you doing to ensure that the cause of the fire is known and those responsible are held accountable?
So the question is around the cause of the fire as it relates to the news regarding the settlement.
Thank you. So this question gets asked a lot of me in public and private. Who was responsible? Well, we're all responsible, all of us, for caring for our people and for everything that's in our state. We are committed to releasing all the reports that come through. Mayor and I talk about this a lot. There won't be finger pointing. There will be discussions about how we can make things safer, and you heard a lot of it today, actually. As to what some people say is, isn't it getting kind of the cart before the horse? The answer is simply no. It's our responsibility to help people recover sooner rather than later, and so that's the reason that we came forward with the settlement. The settlement that was done in less than a year from when the fire occurred, was somewhat astounding because we had to fight what normally people do, which is wait 3 or 4 years to do this. No decisions in court are going to help people heal. It's only the work that these kind of guys do. But we'll explain everything. Honestly, there's this great anticipation of these reports. Most of us all have a pretty clear idea of what happens and what happened that fateful day. A terrible storm spread the embers of a fire, and even though our firefighters were heroic, it was impossible to get ahead of embers that were landing because of almost 80-mile-per-hour winds. That's what you're going to see. What you will also see is sacrifice on some parties' parts to bring extra resources now rather than allow a settlement to be delayed and see somewhere between 4 and 6 years of trials and then appeals, ultimately resulting in most of the resources going to the mainland as a part of the process through fees. So, as Kuhio said, we are very practical in our approach to this, but I know you will want to have a lot of extra details, and we want you to have them because we don't want fires to occur in other parts of the world. But be ready to hear a lot about climate, about how we deal with the environment and grasses, and how we all come together to solve a problem in just 1 to 2 years rather than 8 to 10.
Mahalo, Governor. Next question, Kevin with Honolulu Star-Advertiser.
Last 2 days I've been spending a lot of time out in the country, and I've talked to some folks around Linda Road that are kind of concerned about the eucalyptus in the state forest and feel like they haven't heard a lot about what the way forward is to resolve that. And I want to know what you would tell people up there
Okay, so the question is around an upcountry concern around eucalyptus plants, trees?
In the state forest specifically.
Got it, in the state forest.
I'm gonna take this, Robbie. Okay. I'm a dumb physician and not a bright environmental forestry person. I have reached out to our DLNR folks, and I do have that same concern about eucalyptus trees, both on the Big Island that haven't been harvested and on Maui. They are somewhat flammable under certain circumstances, so we have a full commitment to get rid of brush, especially in the gulches. And then all I can tell you is the DLNR director is working directly on that problem. Maybe I can get our fire chief over here who might know more about those kind of trees. But we're going to have to be paring back a lot of non-native species. And I think that's one of the things that we'll be committed to. Chief.
Hello, good afternoon. In regards to those non-native plants, we have a variety of efforts being worked on. Kula Watershed Alliance is one of the leaders up in Kula that's working on both the black wattle and the eucalyptus forests. And the goal is to slowly remove that from the landscape and bring back native plants. They have a good project that's happening up in the zip line area of the Crater Road, and they've been working on it for about 10 years. And that's an example of what a native forest could look like once we remove all of these invasive plants like the eucalyptus and the black wattle. So that's happening.
There's one more thing that's been going on that is being bandied about, and that is using a lot of these non-native plants and converting some of that to energy. And so our people are looking at that to see if it's possible. It's not just eucalyptus trees either. There's just a lot of heavy brush and additional trees that we've long wanted to get rid of on the Big Island, and that we're hopeful to do. Because going forward, it's going to be about fire prevention. It cannot be about fire recovery.
Mahalo, Governor. Up next, Mahelani, Hawaii News Now.
Thanks. We heard from U.S. Fire talk about evacuation and areas of refuge, and I wanted to know from either you or Mayor, what are the specific evacuation plans? Have they been set up, or have these areas of refuge been set up?
The question is around evacuation plans and areas of refuge.
I'll just start. So what we've already done, we've already communicated with our communities through MEMA, Fire Department, and the Police Department, and also working with vendors about safe evacuation routes. So that's something that obviously we've all thought about and that we are obviously working on right now. But we wanted the communities to be made aware because it's going to impact some homes and some lots. We're talking about whether it's street widening or, I'll give you one example. Ed Sniffen has already opened up part of the bypass. If you're familiar and you look alongside as you're driving over here, you'll see at the very end of that route, it's actually a cul-de-sac. That wall's been removed, and that's going to be a gate, so there's another exit that comes out. I mean, I would consider that an evacuation point, but it didn't require anything more than removing what was, it's referred to as a sound wall that's up along the freeway or the highway. That's already been done, and again, thanks to the state and DOT. So there are things like that that we're putting together on other parts of Lahaina. I don't know how familiar you are with the different neighborhoods and the streets, but the neighbors and the neighborhood themselves have told us where they think we can improve. Some of it is, again, cul-de-sacs, other areas that we think we can extend roads to make it safer. The one thing I want to say about evacuations, it is case specific. It is specific to whatever the emergency is that's happening at that time. And that's something that we learned in the discussions we've had, not to tell people to go one way in all cases without knowing which way the emergency is coming. So that's, again, being taken into account, and I'll leave it to
That's excellent. Thank you. So just to elaborate a bit on that, the concept of temporary refuge areas or areas of last resort are different than what are being deployed now across the nation. So this concept is new because of the dynamic nature of wildfire. It is very different, as the mayor alluded to, from other types of evacuation, where If you're in a hurricane, you may need to get on the road and move early. We know we're in the cone. With wildfire, it doesn't move like that. It's dynamic. It moves where there's fuel. The fuel may be right across the road. So just putting people on a road for evacuation is not always the best case, and yet that's how we've known to do it. We have to look for areas that won't burn. Areas like large baseball fields with no vegetation, or a golf course where we can get in the middle of the green because it is very, has a lot of moisture and it won't burn, right? Areas that are unusual perhaps, that get you out of the path of fire, but don't get you completely out of the area of the fire, but places that won't burn. So there may be smoke, it may be uncomfortable, but you won't die there. And that's the concept. And so this is a brand new concept. We're working to identify these locations across the nation, including on the islands, and then be able to deliver a map of where these are, and then teach people in their communities where these zones are, so you don't just go, when you're told to go, get on the road and think that's what that means. So where is go is a new concept.
Mahalo. Our final question is from Marcel, Civil Beat.
For Mayor Bisson, I just wanted to clarify from what you were saying in some of your remarks that basically by the end of the calendar year, we can expect to see some sort of a master plan for Lahaina that includes the street widths that everybody's curious about, the land use, building densities, and the electrical grid. Those are a lot of those big questions that are swirling around there. I'm wondering if that's what you're saying the community can expect to see by the end of the year.
So the question is seeking clarification on a previous statement anticipating end-of-year master plan for Lahaina.
So it's not a master plan for land, it's a long-term recovery plan. It's not the same thing. We have our Department of Planning, Kate Blystone. She has discussed this at our community meetings, where we are putting together all the feedback that we've gotten from the different communities, and we're putting together what we're calling programs and projects that can be funded, that we can seek grant monies for to put together. That's what we've been talking about. I don't believe we'll cover every one of those areas that you just talked about. That's going to be a longer discussion to have with the community. What we're putting together now are things that we can put in the categories of programs and projects. That's what I was discussing. Yeah.
Mahalo, Mayor. This formally concludes today's news conference. Thank you for being with us today. Mahalo and aloha.